Hey guys, it's been quite some time since we had our cybersecurity training, and this week we decided to create something very unique, or should we say, talk about a very popular subject matter that has been trending on X and across the internet since the past 2 weeks. So, first of all, we want to apologize that we missed our content for the book review series. It's quite sad that we made the video, and during the process of doing the editing and so on, we had a technical glitch, which has to do with Microsoft Windows update and patches. So that made us to skip that content because we're trying to make sure we upgrade all our systems, which we use for our various work-related tasks. So during that period, we were preoccupied with a lot of things and also personal lives that we also need to accomplish. So that made us to skip that content. And since it's past due, we'll be shifting it to another time entirely. With a special video that will be made. Specifically, it has to do with us ensuring that we present 2 videos on the book related video content we make on our official YouTube that is dedicated to the book review series. So before we get started, I hope you guys have been doing well and you guys have been having fun. For those who are currently in their new job roles and positions, I hope you guys are really thriving and also ensuring that you're leading accurately well based on the demands of your new organizations. And for those who are still looking for jobs, I hope you guys are still not giving up and of course still putting in your best to send those applications, because it's essential that you keep showing up every day until you get that which you deserve, because not what you want, but rather what you deserve that will be given to you, which is a product of sheer hard work and dedication. So until you get what you deserve, we want to encourage you to keep pushing out those applications, keep sending out those resumes, keep making those calls, reaching out to friends or people you know on various platforms that can help you to link you up to the right people so that you can get that which you need to, be able to accommodate your bills and of course have that better life which you've always been dreaming of. So let's just quickly jump into today's topic and make this quick video to explain a few misconceptions which has been dangling across X, especially with regards to the Open Web Application Security project top 10 for 2025. And hopefully after we are done with this video today, you have an overview of a clear understanding of what actually is being done by OWASP itself in the year 2025. So with that being said, let's get started. So the OWASP Top 10 2025 official publication is not yet done, but there has been a release candidate on the official website. And before we get into that topic to talk about that classification, it is important for you to understand what the release candidate is all about. Okay? So during the week, I think last week, if I'm not wrong, we stumbled upon a post of a well-known, X user, which is known as Twitter or former Twitter. And this user, has a number of followers. And over the years, he's always having an opinion, not a good opinion actually. Certain opinions actually not right. When it comes to cybersecurity. And this opinion are the reason why we decided to jump into this topic today, because it's a problem in the profession that people speak a lot of jargons without having an in-depth knowledge of what cybersecurity is all about. Or should we say, the subject matter which they intend to discuss about. And those rumors or those opinions they have is one of the reasons why we have a lot of junks. Not in a bad way, but someone has to speak up, the truth when it comes to the profession, because when you feed information to people out there and these people absorb this information because you have a number of followers or followings and they think you're making a right opinion, it makes them to feel that the knowledge they have is the correct knowledge. And when they meet experts when it comes to job interviews and give the same opinions which they have absorbed from your platform, it becomes a problem because the interviewer, who is well-grounded or well-knowledgeable in terms of the field, would tend to see them as someone who is not fitting for that criteria, because basically they rely on the information they got from these various I call them influencers, not actually cybersecurity professionals, because they talk about topics, but when you look deep into what they are saying, you tend to realize that they speak things that they have no knowledge about. Okay? So we want to make not actually an in-depth information about this, but just talk in a surface level that also expands your knowledge on how things are done, so that when you go out there and read information, various platforms, when you come across these influencers who claim to be, cybersecurity expert, which they are not, you do not get yourself involved into absorbing false informations and using those false informations as something that you know. Okay, this is also a way to help you to have a proper understanding of what is going on in the industry and ensuring that you do not, be among those criteria of persons that claim to know why they do not know. Okay, so before we go into the subject matter for today, a release candidate basically is not an official release. Okay, it can be classified as a document that has a specific validation, and this validation is based on prominent persons, or should we say researchers, in terms of this subject matter we're talking about, OWASP Top 10, who have forwarded informations based on surveys carried out by this organization. And these informations are considered credible because they come from industry experts that are well known or that have contributed intensively to these various findings. So when you hear the word release candidate, it means it's still subjected to criticism, but in terms of you providing your feedback as an active web application penetration tester, in this case again, we're talking about OWASP, to validate these various survey reports before OWASP officially releases its top 10 for the year. And as you all know, the year is still ongoing, it's not year ended. So it means before the month of November or December, there would always be new findings. And these new findings, there will be a need, for these new findings to also be implemented by OWASP. And that is the reason why when you see OWASP as an organization, they always release their top 10 of a preceding year in a new year. So for example, when we talk about the OWASP top 10 for 2025, the official release will be in 2026, maybe precisely January or towards the end of the year. So that means we are done for 2025. So these were the prominent, vulnerabilities that were detected out there in 2025. So when you talk about 2026, you should be expecting that of 2026 in 2027. Okay? So when they released this document, we came across it. Of course, we know over the years, this is just a release candidate. It's not the official document. We know. And this classification is not like OWASP has stamped it that this is what you should use as a criteria, because the official release has not been done. So when you see these influencers, having this negative criticism that OWASP is an organization that doesn't understand what they're doing, you tend to realize that these are the people who also have this opinion to, deceive the young generations to drop out of college, because they believe that everything we do in life is about money. Don't get us wrong. Making money is very important. As a matter of fact, everything we do in life, money has to be involved. But if you center your life or everything you do in terms of the profession or anything you want in life without attributing a bit of passion into it, this is where you tend to do whatever it takes to get money. And even when you get money, you notice that you're not fully immersed into the subject matter that is generating that money. So when people tend to, who are well immersed into that, move on with the trend, you tend to see yourself being left behind because you cannot, move on with the trend because you're confined into a restricted knowledge, or should we say limited knowledge of what you know. Okay. So when you follow these influencers on social media, please, like we always say, be very careful of what you consume. Make a deep research, understand how things are done before you can say, okay, this is wrong or this is not wrong. Because when you take this opinion as your basis of what it's like let's just cut this short. It's just like you saying that whatever this guy that is making this presentation at FIXITGEARWARE-SECURITY says is the final say without making an extensive research. If it is wrong, it becomes a false information when you talk to an expert that is well grounded in terms of this, criteria that are used in classifying vulnerabilities. So please be careful when you go out there listening to these influencers who are cybersecurity professionals wannabe. We use it not from a negative perspective, but from a place of, trying to also sound as a sign of warning for them to make an in-depth research before they say things or criticize certain informations, in order not to deceive these newbies who are trying to get into the industry and, laying that path that this is how things are to be done when in essence it's actually wrong. Okay, so this is what the release candidate is all about. It's not the official release. The official release is not yet out. The release candidate is just basically data that has been, generated, still subjected to criticism, and of course, not yet 100% validated to be the final release. So until OWASP says this is the final release, you cannot assume that the data which is out there is true or wrong. It doesn't mean the data is wrong. Neither does it mean the data is true, because there will still be more modifications that needs to be done. And of course, currently the data they have is actually accurate because these data were supplied by industry experts that are in-depthly immersed into this research, and of course, getting this data findings of these various vulnerabilities discovered on web applications. Now, moving on to OWASP top 10 release candidate, on the official website. This data, as we said, is not a data that is based on biasness. So the data is actually accurate because the data is still in the process of being modified. And this modification, before you talk about OWASP top 10, it is very essential, or should we say it's a necessity that you understand how this data are being generated by OWASP, organization itself. So first of all, OWASP consults platforms such as CWA, which is the Common Weakness Enumeration. They also consult the CVE, which is the Common Vulnerability Exposure. And of course, criteria in terms of scoring system. They also consult these resources known as Common Vulnerability Scoring System. And currently, we have the 2.0 calculator system, the 3.0, 3.1, and 4.0. But mainly used are the 2.0, 3.0, and 3.1. Then, of course, we know that there are processes where people discover vulnerabilities via automation. This is where dynamic application security testing comes in, which is the DAST. Then data is curated from SAST, and of course, industry expert based on research findings and data surveys. So curating all this data into one piece, OWASP then now compiles its list and generate the top 10 for that year. So whatever data you see on OWASP's official website, there is no biasness in that data. As a matter of fact, it's not like the data talks in depth of this vulnerability. It's just classifying these vulnerabilities based on categories. And of course, the most popular ones are always the top. most. And the ones that are not popular are always, like we have the A01, A02, A03, 4, and up to 10. So just have an idea that this is how OWASP does generate its top 10. Okay, it's not like they throw out survey out there and say, okay, whatever this survey people do is basically what we are going to take. Nor do they just consult CWE and say whatever data that was provided by CWE, that is what we are going to accept. So there's a lot of work, rigorous work are being put into this by this organization known as Open Web Application Security Testing Project. And this rigorous work is the reason why they generate a data that at least, if not accurate, 80 to 85% of this data are to be trusted based on the classification. So understand this, and if you think there is something that is actually wrong from its classification, you can now consult these various organizations that OWASP does reference its data set from to compile its top 10, and of course make an in-depth research and cross-reference the informations from these various organizations' platform or website to reference it to the data that was curated by the OWASP top 10 project. Now, moving on to the data, this is another thing you have to look out for. As you can see, the cross-reference for this data for 2021 and that of 2025 is currently being classified based on survey. And categorically clear, OWASP stated that these data are from survey. Means that the final release is not yet carried out, which curates all the sources of information that OWASP does reference to before making their final list. So from the survey, it was noticed that broken access control still topped the list, but has been met with server request forgery in 2025. This is due to the fact that a new variant vulnerability has been introduced, which is known as the software supply chain failures. And of course, the software supply chain failures was formerly known as the vulnerable and outdated components, which was the A06, but now it's the A03. So it's like a merging of different discoveries into one piece. And of course, the discovery of this vulnerability is well known out there from the survey data curated from humans who supply this data and known to be, one of the vulnerabilities to look out for in 2025. Okay, so you can see it out there that it's stated that it's from the survey. And of course, this data basically is not the final data. So when, people say things that are not accurate, it tends to hurt, because when you know these things are false and you see that people are buying into this criticism based on the people saying this thing because they have the massive following, you tend to realize that this is how, this industry tends to, get so dented in terms of, expert criticizing that the industry lacks, experts. This is how it commences. This is how it started, So make sure you make your research. If you do not know how to, read data or understand information, please take your time and study. Don't take people's posts as a yardstick, or should we say, the foundation of your judgment, because they have massive following. Not even us. Even as much as we are giving you this information based on intensive research and what we know, you should still take your time to go and read up about these informations based on the resources we'll provide here and other resources that to get the accurate information before you make your final judgment on the OWASP project. Also on the list in 2025, you can notice that a new vulnerability has been introduced, which is known as the mishandling of exceptional conditions. Okay, so A10 and A03 are new, but A03 is a classification, of the previous A06 in 2021. And if you also look further, the referencing of these two data from the left and the right, from the survey curated, you can see in 2021, the vulnerabilities that are topping the list are no more topping the list in 2025. For example, injection attack was previously, in A03, but now on the survey data, gathered in 2025, you can see that injection attack has dropped down to A05. And if you look other to A01 in 2021, that was dealing specifically to with broken access control, which is back, you know that it has been merged with, A010, A10, not A010, sorry about that. It has been merged with A10, which is the SSRF, the server-side request forgery, to be a part of, BAC, which is the broken access control. So there is nothing confusing about, this data. It's well understood in plain sight. But if you're not an industry expert, or you do not understand how this data are being merged or curated, you tend to have this negative criticism about OWASP project. And of course, you become among those people that say, okay, I discovered this vulnerability is not supposed to be classified as, medium. It's supposed to be classified as critical. It has nothing to do with my feelings. It has nothing to do with your feelings. It's based on the data they have in hand. And of course, based on research and CVEs reported. Okay. So use this information out here on the screen to understand deeply of whatever information that has been provided on the official website of the Open Web Application Security Project for the Top 10 2025. Now, this is a snapshot of how you should understand data when you read. So we decided to block that aspect that said it was a release candidate for you to also understand how informations are being carried out, or how you should read information accurately without having, a judgment based on your feelings. So if you look at where we, engraved in square boxes, so rectangular boxes, you can see that for the top 10 in 2021, we have the current release, which means it's the official release. And you can reference this data and consider them to be accurate. However, the rectangular boxes that we, engraved has to be the release candidate. You can see the data comparison. So when you see the word release candidate, it means it's still under review. It's not the final release. That's why it's not stated as the current release or the official release. So this data is out there. Please take your time and read, take your time and research. That is what cybersecurity is all about. In as much as we want to learn from everyone, as a matter of fact, learning from people is also good. It saves you time. But make sure that in the bit of you trying to learn from people, make out time to make your own research and know about things on how they are, how they exist, how they work, or the informations that are being, conveyed out there by people who claim to be professionals, who might not be or might be. They are also prone to errors, to ensure that the information they are talking about is accurate. This is the way you stay ahead. This is the way you can confidently speak about the subject matter. This is the way you can actually defend yourself or your opinion out there in the case of when you're, faced with interviews for those who are just getting into the industry, or for those who are seeking for promotions, knowing that, whatever information you're giving to this expert out there is the same information they are aware of, or they think they know, that you're conveying from a perspective of knowledge and not from assumption or some sort of random article you just absorb out there in the public internet. Okay. So here is how we describe in general for you to understand the difference between OWASP and these various organizations that provide this information on various vulnerabilities. So from FIXITGEARWARE-SECURITY, we summarize OWASP to be a project that gives you a quick summary of what to test. So when we talk about the broken access control and so on, it's a vulnerability that you need to test for. But, the MITRE, which is the CWE, which is the Common Weakness Enumeration, gives an in-depth overview of the vulnerability existence and, of course, the root cause and what to look out for. So make sure you understand this and use those resources, which we have curated here. As you can see, we have for CWE. We also curated the resource for CVE and, of course, the CVSS resources. Use these three resources. Since you cannot, have information or access to data that has to do with DAST and SAST or industry expert opinion, except your big organization as OWASP, or let's say you work for an organization that, can reach out to these industry experts. There is no need for you to go that route. But these three resources or categories of resources which we have provided for you, is going to be of help. It's going to be of enormous help for you to understand how OWASP does classify its project. for every year, when it comes to vulnerability research and penetration testing with regards to web applications. So take your time, go through this short, resources we have here, the links. You can, copy them out from this video presentation. Like we said, we are not going to talk anything about courses until we publish our C programming course. Then we start moving deeply into, cybersecurity related courses where we'll be talking in depth. You're going to understand how you have to make a research with, CWEs, how to make research with CVEs, how to make research with CVSS, and so on. And a bit of advice: if you're lucky enough to afford college or university to go study cybersecurity, I will advise you to do so. Not just for your own good, but to give you a perspective of, being exposed to various lecturers, persons, college students who are well knowledgeable than you and grounded based on information they have read and know, not based on some random, college dropout that is very good at researching tools and vulnerabilities out there and making money from, bug bounty platforms and think they can give opinions, based on, because they make money from, penetration testing. Yes, it's okay. They can, based on what they do. If you know how to hack stuff, give opinions. But when it comes to technical details, that has to do with non-practical, references, it's important that you meet the people that have the right knowledge and information to give you the right data that you can work with, so that when you speak about the subject matter, you can be able to speak about it confidently. And when people listen to you, they can be able to believe your opinion, because whatever you say, when they research it out there, is what is real, not assumptions or that you just think this is supposed to be and you give an opinion, like that. So once again, if you're opportune to go to college to study cybersecurity, please take that, leap of faith, study hard, and of course, get to know cybersecurity very well, so that you can be among those people that can sensitize this industry and of course promote sane knowledge when it comes to, learning cybersecurity, and not just, some fugazi opinion that has no, evidence to back up the information that is being provided. So thank you. We're still working on our technical stuff. We have a lot of things going on, but it's something good. And please be patient. And of course, we said our project and our course for the C programming will be out. And whatever we are cooking with regards to that is something awesome. And it's a course like no other. Okay. Sorry, we delayed it so far because we have limited resources. And of course, we have personal projects we are running. And like we said, it's not all about money. Okay. If it's about money, we'd be churning out courses out there. But we want to create a standard, which at the end of the day, we work with that standard. Because what we are afraid of is not criticism, but criticism based on people's opinion that is on the foundation of reality or truth. What we mean by that is that, imagine we publish a course and somebody says that this course is shitty, and when you check out the course is also shitty. That's not a good thing. So whatever we do, like we said, it's not about money. Money is important. We want to make money so that we can be able to help as much newbies as much as we can. Like the giveaways we do for the vouchers and the tools and platform to learn. But that's not enough. So for us to be able to get much better, to extend our helping hand to newbies, means we have to make money to be able to give back to the community. So while we're still working on the, strategy to build a very good momentum, please be patient with us and stick with us, because we promise, as long as you're with us, you're going to learn a lot of things about cybersecurity and everything you need to know, because we are well grounded, we are well knowledgeable, and the things we do not know, we also take our time to research about it. So thank you for listening and thank you for watching. Until next time, bye for now.